Seven flies through the air, crashes through a skyscraper window, and mows down a crowd of baddies. A man offers him $1 million. He refuses and slices him in half, vertically. The fantasy fades as a kid asks for an order of beef stew. Seven obliges and uses his telekinetically controlled scissors to prepare the dish. The kid isn't impressed in the slightest. Daibo says they should stop selling soup, and Seven should be a hitman instead. There's no money in soup. Freelance killing, now that's the ticket. They'll need a cover business to throw off the fuzz, though. Seven isn't too enthused. It sounds like a lot of work. Daibo motivates him with the prospect of making enough money to go to the super high-tech organization Stan and have them recover all of Seven's memories of his past that he's lost, somehow. Of course he has. Okay, he just needs training. And apparently Daibo has been thinking about this for a while and has a crash course in professional killing. He unveils his newest invention, the Gaiba egg, and he's got a bunch of them. He just has to crack it, though dramatically smashing it against the ground becomes his preferred method, and he'll change into whatever he wants, though he'll still be human, like morally, so try not to be weird about it. Training commences, and despite Seven's skill with scissors, he can't seem to use a knife to save his life, or take anything else's. Daibo introduces him to a new member of their team, Xiao Fei, a super strong chicken that can not only fly, but support the weight of Seven as well. He does always seem to grab him in the worst possible places, though, with no empathy for human anatomy. Daibo is no Miyagi, but the crash course is a start. Seven graduates and is now a certified professional killer. Time to get to work. Their first job, a wedding reception. He just has to sneak in, cut the bride's hair, and dip without being seen. The client paid in advance, so there's no turning back. It's the perfect time to use a Gaiba egg. Seven disguises himself as a roast pig and is primed to cut her hair when he's distracted by a slideshow of the bride and groom's history together and feels the sting of not remembering his own past. He realizes he's been cutting the groom's hair and butchering it. It's understandable, he couldn't see through all the tears. He quickly chops the bride's hair and runs out of there. Completely failing at the going unnoticed part of the job, the wedding party chases after him. During his escape, he collides with a weird little futuristic-looking person and notices the logo on their shirt. Seven asks if they're from Stan. It is. It's a research robot. Seven then asks if the rumors of memory recovery technology are true. They are. The little robot dude then asks if the token on the ground is Seven's. It is. And unfortunately for him, this identifies him as an enemy of Stan. The robot's hand lights up, charging and firing a beam of energy. Seven quickly recalls his chi-controlled scissors. He takes a hit, but manages to lop off the robot's arm. He demands to know why he's being attacked and who he really is, when suddenly plot convenience strikes, and a masked woman chops the robot's head clean off, saving him, but before he's able to learn anything. At least she reveals it's a token from the Killer League. The remnants of the robot go into self-destruct mode. Xiao Fei grabs Seven by the crotch and they narrowly escape the blast. Seven asks Daibo how to find the Killer League, and he tells him that they just have to make it into the top 100 killer rankings, and they'll find him. They'll run a barbershop as a cover business and get started. Daibo gifts him a new pair of cut-through-anything scissors. The cats prepare to go to war with the dogs, and the leader asks her lackeys what they should do. One of them hands her a business card their barber gave them. Seven meets with her, and as a professional, he doesn't care why. He only needs to know the when and where. Midnight, the dog's headquarters. She doesn't want their alpha dead, only for both of his eyes to be stabbed out. When he gets there, he uses a Gaiba egg to disguise himself as a dog, easily slipping past their security. Once inside, he gets whacked in the face by a ball. It's not an attack. These dogs love to play and swarm him. A moment later, a frisbee. Then an onslaught of every kind of toy you can think of. He finally makes it to their leader and introduces himself as Mad Bark, which raises suspicion. The alpha is called Mad Bark, and there can be only one. Mad Bark, the real one, questions if this guy's even a dog at all. He reeks of human. They come up with the perfect test. No dog can resist eating his cover's blown. No matter, he transforms back into a human and promptly pokes out Mad Bark's eyes. Okay, so he missed. The dog's glasses were on his forehead. That's an easy mistake. He keeps trying, but the dog's got amazing defense reflexes. Then Mad Bark pulls out a guitar, shreds for a moment, attacking Seven's ears and offending his taste in music, and then proceeds to beat the bag out of him with the flying V. Seven has a weird flashback, and another personality emerges, one that's actually pretty competent, but then snaps out of it and quickly loses the upper hand he had for a couple of seconds. Just when things aren't looking great for Seven, Mad Bark notices the photo Meow gave him to identify him, and melancholically recites their backstory. They were lovers in the past. Meow told Mad Bark that if he fell in love with someone else, she'd stab his eyes out. But when he found out cats and dogs couldn't breed, he left, since he's pretty sure she's gonna want a family. So Seven tells him to just explain that to her, or she's gonna keep sending people to take his eyes out, then turns himself into a floor tile and skitters away. Mad Bark finds Meow and starts playing the guitar. He sings her a straight-up banger, and the two make up. Suddenly, the masked woman from before shows up to assassinate Mad Bark for reasons unknown. We then find out that this Mad Bark is really Seven in disguise. Meow identifies her as Killer 13 and sicks her cats on her. A brief distraction. She turns to Mad Bark, only to find he's already gone. 13 catches up to Seven, and he tries to convince her that he's not Mad Bark and turns back into himself, but she doesn't buy it. He uses super invisibility by throwing another egg to transform into a rock, but he gives himself away when he stops a dog from relieving itself on him. He summons his scissors and cuts her mask away, revealing the hottie beneath. It's not enough to just survive her attacks. Now he's into her, but he's got no game. Okay, now's not the time, so Seven whips out Xiao Fei and tries to make a less than graceful escape. She throws poison-tipped shurikens to knock them out of the sky. Now that he's seen her face, he has to die. Only his butt was affected by the poison, and Seven is able to separate his scissors into two attacking blades and put up a pretty good fight for a few moments. But he's no match. She fights off the scissor blades and moves in for close combat. He somehow ends up pulling her into a kiss while evading her hair blade attack, which prompts a swift kick to the balls. She grabs her sword and advances, ready to strike a blow that'll end this ridiculous little scenario, when a hand reaches out, grabs the blade before it cuts Seven down, and snaps it in half. It's Xiao Fei. Both 13 and 7 are utterly confused by this crazy transformation. The cats finally catch up, and 13 makes her escape by summoning her own winged associate, vowing to kill him another time. At the barbershop, 7's got a client, and he gives the lady a haircut from the picture she gave him. He does a surprisingly good job of it. Unfortunately, it's a picture of the person she wants him to kill. She's the chair of the Island Purity Society. They had voted to pay him $500 to take the man out. Apparently, he's a pervert who collects girls' panties. So 7 tracks him down and uses an egg to transform into a pair of panties. The perfect plan. When they get back to the guy's place, 7 fails at his first attempt to kill him, and the guy decides he should try on his new panties. Fortunately, before first contact is made, the Purity Society shows up, raring to kill him themselves. The man breaks down. He doesn't steal panties, he buys them new at the store and just collects them. That's still too weird for the Purity Society. One of the women throws a burning torch at his collection. 7 springs into action, stops them, and defends him. It's not like he's hurting anybody. The women resolve to take them both out, and they're surprisingly agile. 7 has an epiphany. Go for their weaknesses. He uses his scissors to shorten one of the prude's dresses, attacking her modesty. He cuts through another's glasses, attacking her poor eyesight. Then he faces off against the one who hired him, but things aren't looking too hot. That is, until he drops his drawers, attacking the very core of her being. After the women flee, the man thanks 7 for defending his harmless hobby. One day, an elderly woman is selling overpriced and under-delicious oranges to suckers on the street, mostly by crying elder abuse and swindling passersby into buying them. Luckily, 7 is there to stop her. He begins his surveillance disguised as a cardboard box. Unfortunately, she notices it and decides to fold him up and bring him along. The woman goes to pick up her grandson from school and unaffectionately tricks a dog while she waits. 7 goes to cut the granny's throat. It's unclear whether he's himself in the bag or half something in the bag and half himself when the irritated dog returns with a vengeance. 7, now definitely fully himself, sends the dog off. He took some damage to his bits though. When he asks the grandma if she's got a band-aid, she shanks him twice. He tries to run, but she tries to force him to pay for destroying her bag. 7 has the brilliant idea to use his scissors, and she uses him as a human shield. When her grandson comes through the school gates, she sees the ridiculous reverse mohawk haircut that's been inflicted on him and goes ape. "Who did this to you?" He points at 7. The kid and his father had come into the barbershop, requested that ridiculous haircut, and put a hit on the old lady. He puts 2 and 2 together and realizes it was the lady's son who put the hit on her. She strips down to the black catsuit that she apparently wears under everything and beats the living hell out of him with a bullwhip. Daibo watches from afar and shoots 3 crossbow bolts at her grandson to finish the job, knowing that she'll sacrifice herself to save him. She does. But in a moment of empathy for the emotional life cycle of someone who's lived as long as Granny, 7 intercepts the bolts with his scissors to save her. It turns out her son wanted her dead to cash in on that sweet insurance money. In the end, 7 could not abide this. On the docks, 7 stands ready to end a young girl's life. He hesitates when she collapses into a dramatic monologue. Not impressed, he goes to finish her off. She interrupts him again and proposes that he help her fulfill her bucket list, and then she'll let him kill her. Sure, okay, seems reasonable, and it looks like some pretty standard stuff. It's also revealed that she has the mysterious power of being able to paralyze someone with a touch. Anyhow, they get on with the list. 1. Drink an entire bottle of Coke in one breath. 2. Pee standing up. 3. Run naked in public. This gets edited to watch someone else run naked in public. 4. Stick a nurse with a needle. 5. Eat in a Michelin 3-star restaurant. 6. Crush ex-boyfriend's balls. 7. Ride a lion. 7 decides it's safer to just transform into a lion for this. Safer for her, at least. 8. Go skydiving. Well, he doesn't have a plane, but he does have a flying chicken. They free fall from the upper atmosphere, and 7 uses an egg to turn into a giant paper plane. After safely returning to Earth, 7 gets ready to fulfill his end of the contract. It turns out the girl doesn't really want to die, but she doesn't have a choice. She has cancer. She was the one who hired him in the first place. Being assassinated would be badass. It's the last thing on her bucket list. 7 deliberately misses. Instead of killing her, he promises to take her to the best doctor he knows. Daibo and 7 start selling coconuts on the beach, since he's failed every mission thus far. Not surprisingly, this idea is even less profitable. Luckily, they're hired for another assassination. The island's single Coast Guard even pays up front, a full $88. The target is on a submarine, and without a diving suit or swimsuit of any kind, it's not looking good. Suddenly it hits him. He'll turn into a fish and infiltrate the sub by pretending to drown? It works. One of the sub's crew notices him and brings him on board for dinner. But the crew argue over which is the preferred cooking method. The captain arrives with a better idea. Tonight, they're having sashimi. Or not. 7 turns back into a human and the 2 square off. Unfortunately, this guy's on another level. They should have charged more. 7 calls Daibo for backup, but he's occupied. The captain gets a look at 7 with his hair down and remembers seeing him before. Flashback. After completing a job, Captain Jack was about to get paid when 7 arrives and assassinates the guy before he's able to pay up. Back to the present, Captain Jack decides to test if he's the same guy who gave him the giant scar on his chest. He doesn't seem to be on the same level, so he decides to play a little game. If 7 can move his foot, then he'll forget about invading the island. 7 throws an egg at one of the lackeys as a distraction and suddenly appears right in front of Jack. He spooks him just enough to move his foot. Success. But not really. The captain wasn't even going to invade the island. He was just passing by on his way to other things. Instead of keeping the money, 7 buys back the Coast Guard's pants that he had sold to pay him. A woman hires Seven to take out her husband if he catches him with another woman. Sure enough, there he is out on the beach with a woman that's definitely not his wife. But he also notices he has a bodyguard. As they walk out to a little cabana on the water, he tries to sneak up on him disguised as a rubber duck, which presents its own set of complications. When he transforms back, he's caught immediately, and a whale eats his scissors. He has to think of a plan, quick. The dude has a gun, so he proposes they engage in Hollywood combat and go blow for blow. The first one to tap out loses. Seven goes first and winds up to give him all he's got. The bodyguard uses his indestructible virgin stance, and Seven's hand breaks against his opponent's unaffected face. Blow for blow, Seven gets his ass handed to him. But he doesn't back down. He can really take a beating. Even the bodyguard admires his resilience. They exchange blows for like 3 days. The target decides to leave, and Seven sees his chance. He goes in for a sneak attack, but the bodyguard is too quick. He puts him in a solid-as-gold 7-day lock. Surely the guy can't hold it for that long, right? A few very awkward days pass, and 13 tries to ambush Seven. Lucky for him, the indestructible virgin is, well, indestructible, and her blade shatters upon impact. Seven gives up and asks the bodyguard to let go. But he can't. It's only been 4 days. So he proposes they talk instead of being weirdly silent. Suddenly, the pair notices a rocket flying straight for them, and Seven books it. The bodyguard uses all of his might to break the unbreakable lock 3 days early, and sacrifices himself, taking the missile strike to protect the islanders. A giant orb emblazoned with the Stan logo rises out of the ocean. It opens to reveal a small figure, a bit perplexed about what just happened. Xiao Fei dives into the water and saves the unconscious bodyguard, who survived the blast, but only just. The Stan man approaches Seven, asking if he was the one who blocked the missile, but Seven just asks why he attacked. The Stanian runs facial recognition on him, and after getting a match that identifies Seven as a serious threat, he attacks, breaking Seven's scissors. Xiao Fei swoops in and saves Seven at the last second. Xiao Fei might be the most reliable sidekick backup chicken ever. The Stanian flies to the center of the island, and he identifies a large deposit of rare ore beneath the island. It turns out the island wasn't formed like most others are. The mysterious rare ore somehow attracted debris, the sum of which is the foundation of the island. After the Stanian harvests the ore, the island will collapse. He announces this to the island folk, thinking he's being perfectly reasonable. Daibo reveals that 3 factions make up the world: Xuan Wu and their kung fu, the Stanians and their technology, and of course the commoners. Xuan Wu and the Stanians have been at war for decades. The bodyguard wakes up and offers Seven everything in his bank account to kill the Prince of Stan. Meanwhile, Miao shows up and tries to stop the Stanian, but is quickly taken out. Mad Bark and the Coast Guard appear, but they don't last much longer. Cancer Girl shows up, but her powers only provide a temporary distraction. Another challenger enters the ring, the leader of the Island Purity Society. With her exceptional amount of chi, she lasts a little longer than the rest, and manages to deflect an energy blast at the mining orb, but she's still no match for the Prince of Stan's self-defense technology. A sword suddenly whizzes past the Stanian's head. It's Seven. He carries the Purity Society lady to safety and goes head-to-head with the tiny nerd. Moments before he went to face him, Daibo gave Seven his sword back, a sword he didn't even know he had, and revealed the truth about their meeting. He found Seven unconscious on the beach 2 years prior. After getting him fixed up, he convinced him to become a killer to pay off the medical debt. When Daibo turns around to see how he's taking the news, Seven is already gone. When Seven unsheathes the blade to face the Prince of Stan, it's all cracked and doesn't inspire much confidence, and does in fact shatter to pieces after a moment's use. 13 shows up to jump in and help. Seven tries to distract him by pointing, "Whoa, a flying chicken!" The Stanian won't fall for, but no really, it's Xiao Fei. 13 lends Seven one of her blades, and all 3 attack at once. The Stanian has an ace up his sleeve and uses tech to augment his abilities. In this form, he's actually holding his own pretty well against the 3 attackers. 13 is winded after blocking an energy blast, and the Prince of Stan quickly charges another, more powerful one. 7 saves her by pushing her out of the way and transforms into a leaf. He gets behind the Stanian and uses the solid-as-gold 7-day lock. 13 goes in for a strike, but the Stanian is 2 steps ahead and freezes her in place. 7 calls forth his chi scissors. The pieces rise out of the ocean and coalesce, race towards them, and pierce both of their chests. 7 collapses, and Xiao Fei performs some kind of chi-augmented chest compressions. The Stanian recovers almost immediately. Human hearts are weak. That's why he had a gorilla heart installed. Daibo and 13 provide a distraction before the Prince of Stan can finish 7 off. In his unconscious state, 7 has a small flashback to before he washed up on the beach. He was a notorious shadow killer who fell into the ocean after being betrayed. He comes to, way more badass than usual, acting like a completely different person. He grabs the hilt of his sword, uses chi to gather the pieces, and chops the Stanian's arm off through his defensive barrier. The prince activates his trump card. He summons the orb he rode in on in robot mode and leaps into it to operate it like a mech. It's futile though. 7 extends the broken pieces of his sword and cuts through the thing like butter. The orb explodes and the nerd flies off, promising a rematch. That was all 7 had in him, and he collapses on the spot. 13 had been broadcasting those last moments to her master, who instructs her to kill him and retrieve his weapon, though she apparently doesn't because later on, everyone waits outside the barbershop hoping the doc can work his magic. 7 opens the door, and they hesitate, not knowing if he'll be himself. He's just dumbfounded by their presence and assumes they're all there for a haircut, then realizes his scissors are missing. Elsewhere, Thor hands 13 a freshly forged pair of scissors, since he couldn't repair the old ones. She throws them into the air, and we watch them fly through a panning shot of the island community, right into 7's hand. Thank you for sticking until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.